bubbling, coming in, crushing this art. Hey, little late, but we're back with Taurus rising. So, alright, this is on. Just had to make sure. So, Taurus rising, just straight up, this is a fixed person, right? But if we look at their second house, it's almost like what they value, they don't like to get stuck in one spot, because it's Gemini, but we'll get to that. So, Taurus rising. So this is someone, like, personally, that they're coming from a place where they want to attach to what they value, right? They want to be fixated on what they value. You know, they're okay with a little bit of changes, the moon there, as long as it's comforting, as long as it's a nice change, as long as it's like, you know, you brought me some goodies and now we can hang out, and that was so nice, like, you know, I'll stop doing that to have spend some time on you, you know, things like that. But generally, this would be the type of person that does not want to go out of their way, right? They know the way that they're going, they know what they like, etc. So, if we go to the 7th house, this would be Scorpio. So this would be someone who has deep emotional connections with people, fixated emotional connections. Like, the reason I associate personally Scorpio, or I can see it associating with Pluto, is because if you obsess over something and that's not positive, that's an emotional weight you put behind that. So there's going to be manifestation energy behind that, and if you're focusing on something negative, right, that's going to cause an experience that, or continue to cause experiences that you're going to have to go through that you're not going to like, to the point where that's just going to keep building more weight, to the point where you can't do that anymore. You can't obsess. It's literally like causing anorexia or some shit, you know? So that would be the 7th house. So this would just be deep relationships. Either they're really fixated on someone, because this is the sign. So this is kind of the energy that is involved with their one-on-one relationship. So it could be them, it could be someone else, but this is like obsession. This could lead to the tightest knit relationship with the truest love, right? If it's positive, but also could get someone lost in just the first thing they enjoyed, you know? So, if we go to the 4th house, this is Leo. So straight off the bat, this is someone who feels most expressive in their home life. And in their home life, they do like to express. So it's not like they don't like to express. Like, that's literally in the 4th house. So part of their recharging is really putting on a show, you know? Like, their home is almost like, reminds me of like a ceremony, the Leo putting on a show. So regardless, there was just a lot of ego or a lot of showmanship in the home. So regardless if that's something that they had to put up with, or it's something that they do, you know, there's a lot to be learned, or yeah, a lot of expression, like from the heart, which could be ego, but it could also be beneficial, right? Because ego could be beneficial. Just depends on what they're connecting to. So that would be the 4th house, whereas versus the 10th house, so this off the bat would mean that this person is not as expressive publicly. So generally, or say if we go back to Aries rising, the 10th house would be Capricorn. So this person will be seen as a big dreamer, right? But Taurus with Aquarius there, I don't think they'd be seen at all, really, besides the people that they let into their social group. Because with being an intellectual sign or being an air sign, you're able to really relate with anyone. And none of them necessarily really have aggressive energy, right? Like, Libra is probably going to, like, shy out of a situation and go somewhere they like. Gemini is just going to have fun with any situation. Whereas, like, Aquarius, I feel like, is going to be in their social situation, but they're kind of, like, moving through a bunch of them unseen and, like, watching everywhere so that they know who they can introduce to theirs. But it's almost like they're seen, but you don't know what they're about, right? And also, until you get on their inner circle, or they let you in. But yeah, other than that, all you see is that they're there. So that's the 4th house and the 10th house. So now if we go to the mutable houses, the 2nd, the 5th, the 8th, and the 11th. So the 2nd will be Gemini. I talked about this a tiny bit earlier, to where what they value isn't one thing, right? So if we had like for example, on the last sign, Aries, we had Taurus here. So this would be someone who, like, knows what they like and knows what they're going to use, and they're going to have a bunch of different ways of utilizing that, but it's kind of like they have, like, their skill set, you know, they have their things that they attach to, and that may change eventually, but it is stable. So on the kind of opposite side here, we have Taurus rising with Gemini. So it's like there is something that they do like, right? But they want to be able to utilize anything to get to that result. They want to be able to get to know more things so that they can express what they connect to. Like a quilter, for example, gets to know a bunch of different patterns and a bunch of different colors, right? And so when it does have an idea, it has all these different realms it can pick from to really bring something together, right? So yeah, second house of values, just like wanting to be able to be in touch with whatever they feel at the moment, right? Which would kind of make sense, or whatever makes sense at the moment, being mutable. So, which would make sense too, because part of their rising is, or moon exalts in their rising house, so it's almost like they're kind of okay with the fluidity as long as it goes with what they value, right? So that's the second. So if we go to the fifth, how they express themselves, this is Virgo. So this is someone who would express themselves like mechanically, like through like the things that they have built, right? So if we just look at the Earth houses, the first, the fifth, and the ninth, the first is like personally there is something they like, right? They're trying to bring this, they're trying to bring what they enjoy into their life. Fifth house, how they express themselves is like breaking down and rebuilding like every little thing, like really getting to know things deeply, right? So that's almost their fifth house, like yeah, so they express themselves versus like a Pisces person, which when they're trying to express themselves they get sucked into emotionally, right? Or a Pisces fifth house person, which would be Scorpio rising. This would be someone who isn't necessarily like as deep with expressing themselves, because a Pisces person or a Pisces in the fifth house would mean that when this person has expressed themselves, they get almost lost into that to the point where they'd have a lot of experiences where they had to learn from like what they can get lost into emotionally, right? Whereas the Taurus fifth house is almost like the same way, but not emotionally. Like they can get lost in breaking down one little thing, right? And this may not be it may not be that worthwhile, but it could. Like this could be they express themselves in kind of breaking down how they do what they do, or just the understanding, like the teacher, you know, like what do you need to know? I'm here to tell you if you want. But it's almost like, it almost reminds me of how they're Leos in the fourth house and they're not that expressive publicly, because it's almost like only when you're in their inner circle you see their Leo, you see their heart. But even when they're kind of building something and express themselves creatively, it's more grounded, which will still show you who they are, because they're going to be creating based off of what they resonate with. But it is going to be more so in like in the material, like versus Pisces or versus Scorpio rising, when they show you their fifth house, it's going to be when they're being creative, it's like they're lost in it, or you could get sucked up into it emotionally, whether it kind of makes sense or doesn't. So yeah, so then if we go to the eighth, this will be Sagittarius. So if we look at the fire signs, this would be the 4th, the 8th, and the 12th. So it's almost like when they initiate kind of a new action, right, or a new feeling, or like a new ambition, right, a new spark. This would be in their 12th house. So it's like they see the limit, and then that's what they're going to work off of. Like, it's a Taurus rising person, so they're fixed. They're going where they're going. So once they hit that block, the 12th house, where they can't go no further, this is where they're trying to find any way around that, right? And they're expressing that through their 4th house, and also they're getting a lot of information about kind of the ins and out of how that's going to work in their 8th house. So a lot of the expression comes from the 4th house. The 8th house is where they learn, like behind closed doors is where they learn what they resonate with spiritually, which might be why most of their expression is in the 4th house, because it's not necessarily things that they'd express publicly. This is the 8th house. This isn't even necessarily things that they saw coming. It's just like they were sucked up into something behind closed doors that gave them like a higher reasoning and meaning behind it. So that would play into their 12th house, like what they end up trying to fight for and fight past, right? And also their 4th house, how they express themselves. So basically, the 8th house energy here is deep learning behind closed doors, whereas like the Scorpio rising would be Gemini 8th house. So this would mean like behind closed doors, we just have fun, right? Or what you don't see about me isn't necessarily the deep part, because all my deep part is on my chest, is like Scorpio rising, right? So when I'm behind closed doors, like, this is like when I calm down, right? This is where Taurus like heights up, which makes sense. Like gets lost in the activities, right? So yeah, to the point where like this could burn them, and they need to they learn from that, right? So yeah. So that would be the 8th house. So if we go to the 11th, this is Pisces. Okay, so it's almost like their Aquarius 10th house, right? They don't let people in, or people don't see where their brain is at unless they think they're going to resonate, unless they let them in. Like it's that Aquarius, like it's that holding, or it's that cloud, right? Holding the water. It's not feeling it, right? But it's holding it, right? So it's able to not put that on its face, but it still has it as its like what it resonates with, and it can let people in and work on that with people. So when we get to the 11th house, and this being Pisces, when they do let people in publicly, you know, and they start to associate with things like publicly, they have a really deep connection to that, and they get lost on that. Like they could be over supportive to someone else's business, or they could just be at another business party, right? Think they connect with these people. These people end up doing like morally wrong things to the Taurus. Like, I don't know, like how they run their business is like corrupted or something. And then they end up bringing the Taurus in on this a little bit. And because of the Piscean energy, they're more mutable and they're willing to go with the flow as long as they can, till they end up having all this emotional weight of feeling like why did I associate with something that would make me feel this way, right? But it could also be if you're surrounding yourselves with really positive people, like publicly and more like coworker associate wise, then you get lost in those relationships and you can really bring out the feeling in them, right? But you could also bring out the feeling in a negative relationship. So it's really deep connection to more so like where you think it would just kind of be like a business venture. But I guess it makes sense because the Taurus being fixed, it's like once you're in a circle and you're part of this business venture, it's like we're in this, right? All right, so that is the mutable houses, which would be the 2nd, the 5th, the 8th, and 11th. So if we go to the cardinal houses, this will be the 3rd, the 9th, the 6th, and 12th. All right, so these are the cardinal houses. So straight off the bat, it just seems like they kind of only initiate things when they have to, right? They only bring in anew when they have to. Like, besides like what they aspire to, like that's the 9th house, right? That's almost their purpose. So they're trying to bring in a new structure, right? But when they bring in like new thoughts, this is because something breaks down. The 5th house, like something physically around them isn't working. They got to maintain that, right? Or new feelings, 3rd house, like when they are just going about their day-to-day, right? Like this is when things kind of catch them off guard and they're like, whoa, like seems like because they are ruled by Taurus and they have that like Venusian or Venus chart ruler, that when they're just kind of going around their day-to-day and connecting to things is like they connect deeply, right? So once they actually let someone in, just like the Pisces in the 11th house, once they actually let someone in to their like productive or their work circle, then like that means a lot, right? So when they're actually like doing their day-to-days, or yeah, things that they do it day-to-day, like this would be like writing or meditating or like creating videos, or if you go on walks, something like this, they'd be really, really connected and in tune with that day-to-day, having Cancer there, and it would really reflect where they're coming from or wherever their moon is in their chart. And yeah, that would be the place where kind of their like emotions and feelings kind of start, right? Their water starts. So yeah, it is a connection, just like it has a sextile to the 1st house. So it's almost like there's opportunities, right, in their environment that they can connect to that can help them expand upon what they do personally resonate with, right? So, but this could also be someone with, if they have, like if their moon is in a hard place, or like they're just a really bad environment, right? This is someone really connecting deeply to the environment, like really kind of getting it, and having to go through that and figure out how to like react emotionally, right? But it is like sort of like this is kind of where you expect to be comforted. Like this is kind of where you go to find you, or like to recollect yourself, you know? So So that would be the third house versus the ninth. So the third house, what's always around is when they're kind of like emotionally kind of in tune with things. Once they get to the ninth house, what they dream of, what they aspire to, this is Capricorn. So this is developing a new structure in line with their passion. So yeah, so that's what they aspire to, which makes sense, right? We talked about the first house. They really want to be able to fulfill what they desire in a physical form. Like they want to be able to live surrounded by all these things that connect with who they are, what they resonate with, right? So when we get to the ninth house, they're always looking up to building that new thing. And that comes into the first house when they carry it out, like filling it up, right? And yeah, so like ninth house, they have this dream, they have this purpose. First house, they resonate with this thing and fill it up and connect to it and are kind of thinking all the things they need to do for it. And in the fifth house, this is where they express themselves. They express themselves by the being able to break down and build, right? So it all kind of plays together, if you see what I'm saying. So that would be the ninth house and versus the third. So the third is where they're getting really sucked into things emotionally, but what they really aspire to is just being able to bring something into being, right? It's not necessarily like feely, right? It's like I want more, you know, like I want more of what I love, kind of sounds like Taurus, right? So that would be the third and the ninth. So if we go to the fifth and the sixth and the 12th, right? This would be Libra for the fifth. So when things break down, right? When things kind of first break down, it's almost like Libra is kind of calm, cool, and collected in a way because it's air. It's not in its feelings, right? Just kind of like Earth, even though Earth may be more melancholy, but it'll be more so just like, how do we get this done, right? So the Libra is almost like they understand how things work, or they feel like they do, right? So they're like, oh, I'll come about it this way, right? And this will be in line with what I value, the Venus ruler, and also it'll help me gain structure and security, the Saturn. So this is someone who, when things break down physically, they just start generating ideas, and they may feel confident to the point where they're like, oh, like I got this, and maybe they don't worry about it, which may be a negative end. But also they have all these ideas that they can try out and can execute, as in the positive end. So when they do find out that they can't break through that barrier, the 12th house, when that thing breaks down, and that's now life, and they're hit with this straight up limit that they cannot get around, right? This will be the 12th house, and this will be Aries, so this would be throwing a fit. This would be trying to find any way through it, like aggressively, like this is not happening, right? Which makes sense. This is like the spark to what they're trying to create. It's almost like once they hit that limit, that frustrates them so much that it goes into their expression and almost like their purpose. So it's almost like a lot of the things they create have to do with making things more welcoming, making things more like ease of access, it seems like things like that. So yeah, so that would be the 12th. When they finally hit a boundary, it would just be that frustration, that Aries, you know what I mean? But when they first hit an obstacle, they're just kind of calm, cool, and collected dealing with that, probably because they are Earth, and they do think that, okay, this is something I can solve, this is something I can understand. So yeah, so that would be the 3rd, the 9th, the 6th, and 12th. So, Taurus rising, complete. Bubbling, coming in, crushing this art.